Let's jump right into an incredibly fascinating matchup. Today we're breaking down a round of 32 clash at Kansas City Stadium. It was a game that promised a massive battle of contrasting styles, but honestly, it almost immediately descended into pure, unadulterated chaos on the pitch. On one side, we had Colombia, affectionately known as Los Cafeteros, and on the other, Ghana's Black Stars. What we got was a game that completely defied usual tournament expectations. It started with absolute turbulence and ended in just a clinical, suffocating display of control. Let's look at exactly how Colombia secured their ticket to the last 16.
So how do you completely dominate a World Cup match but only walk away with a 1-0 victory? I mean, usually when you see a 1-0 scoreline, your mind immediately jumps to a gritty, back-and-forth nail-biter, right? Maybe a game where one team just barely scraped by on a lucky bounce. But as we're going to see throughout this explainer, that was absolutely not the case here. This specific match was a masterclass of total, absolute domination, just disguised behind a very modest scoreline. It's the perfect example of why you can literally never judge a game just by looking at the final score.
Act 1. Chaos and quick adjustments. The early turbulence and the unlikely spark.
You know, every manager comes into a knockout game with a meticulously crafted tactical plan. Well, in this match, those plans were basically thrown right out the window before fans even settled into their seats. The opening minutes were just frantic. Within the first 10 minutes, an unprecedented piece of World Cup history unfolded. Both sides were forced into immediate, completely unplanned changes. Colombia's Jhon Arias goes down with a groin strain, and almost at the exact same time, Ghana's Marvin Sanaya limps off the pitch. Total tactical chaos. But here's where the game was arguably won. Colombia adjusted instantly. In the 14th minute, Cordoba's replacement, Luis Suarez, bursts clear down the right wing, dancing right past the Ghanaian defenders. He delivers this pinpoint cross into the penalty box. And right there, arriving completely unmarked at the back post, is Jhon Arias, who calmly guides a first-time finish right into the bottom corner. From 0 to 100 in a matter of seconds.
And man, that lightning-fast goal sent the sea of yellow Colombian fans into pure ecstasy. The atmosphere in the stadium shifted instantly. What was supposed to be a neutral venue in Kansas City suddenly felt like a de facto home game down in Barranquilla. The psychological edge was set right then and there. Colombia didn't just take the lead on the scoreboard. They took complete ownership of the stadium's energy, which, as you know, is a massive, immeasurable advantage in a knockout tournament.
Moving into Act 2, the yellow wall dominates, the squeeze and offside frustration.
With that early lead established and the crowd absolutely roaring, Colombia essentially decided to put the entire game into a vice grip. They took absolute control of the pitch and the tempo. 60%. That was Colombia's massive share of possession. Now sure, in modern football, possession doesn't always guarantee a win, but the way Colombia used this 60%, it was incredibly telling. Ghana, finding themselves down early, tried desperately to drag the game into a physical, slow-paced grind to disrupt the rhythm, but their attempts completely failed. They simply could not get close enough to disrupt Colombia's smooth, rhythmic passing sequences. The South Americans used the ball like a shield, starving Ghana of any opportunity to build momentum. It was a suffocating squeeze that literally left the Black Stars chasing shadows.
And this brilliantly illustrates why that 1-0 scoreline we talked about earlier is so deceptive. Colombia could have easily doubled or even tripled their lead before halftime. Just think about the near misses. First, we had Luis Diaz firing narrowly wide on a blistering quick counterattack. Then, Ghana's goalkeeper Lawrence Adezigi pulls off an absolutely stunning reaction save to claw away a downward header from Johan Mojica. And the frustration really peaked early in the second half when Diaz actually found the back of the net off an Arias cross. The crowd erupts, only for a marginal VAR offside review to cut the celebration short. The tension was palpable. But despite all these agonizing close calls, Colombia remained firmly in the driver's seat.
Act 3, a defensive masterclass, complete control and safe passage.
Now, usually when a team has a goal disallowed and is clinging to a slender one-goal lead, panic starts to set in. But under manager Nestor Lorenzo, Colombia never actually looked like they were in jeopardy. So how'd they do it? Well, it all comes down to the defensive block. This is a tactical strategy where a team maintains strict, cohesive positioning to stop opposition counterattacks before they can even develop. And Nestor Lorenzo's side put on an absolute masterclass in this discipline. Late in the game, Ghana's manager Carlos Queiroz had his team throwing bodies forward in a desperate attempt to find an equalizer. But Colombia's defensive block remained absolutely impenetrable. They used tactical possession not just to attack, but to defend, making sure Ghana never had the space or the structure to mount a real threat.
If you want to see what an impenetrable defensive block looks like in data, well, this is the statistical punchline of the entire match. Colombia racked up a massive 20 shots throughout the game. Meanwhile, Ghana's shots on target? Not existent. Zero. Colombia completely and utterly neutralized Ghana's attack for over 90 minutes. I mean, to play a knockout stage game at a World Cup and prevent a desperate trailing team from registering a single shot on target, that is almost unheard of.
20 shots for Colombia, 0 shots on target for Ghana. It is a David versus Goliath statistical obliteration. Remember when we asked at the beginning of this explainer how a team dominates but only wins 1-0? Well, here is your answer. You do it by ensuring your opponent quite literally never has a chance to score. It was a controlled, suffocating defensive masterclass that safely guarded that 14th-minute goal all the way to the final whistle.
Next stop, Vancouver, advancing to the round of 16.
So with this controlled 1-0 victory, Colombia not only extends their impressive unbeaten streak, but they officially punched their ticket to the round of 16. They did exactly what they needed to do: survive the early chaos and lock the game down entirely. Up next, they'll face Switzerland, and the match is heading to Vancouver. And listen, this total defensive lockdown matters immensely as we look forward to this highly anticipated showdown. Switzerland is a team known for their rigorous organization and tactical intelligence. But after witnessing Colombia seamlessly blend a lethal counterattack with a flawless defensive block, the dynamics of this upcoming matchup have suddenly become incredibly compelling.
Which leads us to our final thought for today. With an impenetrable defense that allows 0 shots on target and a lethal, lightning-fast counterattack capable of scoring in the blink of an eye, is Switzerland truly ready to face the yellow wall? This Colombia side just proved they don't need a blowout scoreline to completely dominate a game. Thank you so much for joining me for this breakdown. I am sure, just like me, you absolutely cannot wait to see how this next chapter unfolds on the pitch.